Hey everyone, how's it going? Thanks so much for tuning in. Today I'm going to start working on this 1985 Pontiac Fiero SE. If you guys haven't seen the first video I shot on this car, I've got a link to it down in the description below. It was a lot of fun winching this thing out from the barn it was sitting in and getting it running, starting the cleaning process, so if you haven't checked it out, definitely do so. Long story short, this car belongs to a good friend of mine. His first car was a Fiero, and this is going to be his daughter's first car, which is pretty cool. So the goal over the next several months is to get this thing safe and reliable and spruced up and all that good stuff. This video in particular, I want to get this thing on the road for a more thorough test drive and have it not be quite so sketchy. So obviously, for sitting all of the years it sat in that barn, it needs a ton of service work, brake work, suspension work, typical engine stuff, blah, blah, blah. But it's got some sketchy wiring going on. The steering column is broken and no longer functions to start the car, so somebody at some point had put some aftermarket switch panel in the dash to start the car, turn the radio on, so on and so forth, and during the time it's been here at the shop, it doesn't even work anymore, so to start the car I have to basically hotwire it, which is kind of fun. But anyway, I need to tear into the dash, I need to replace the steering column, I gotta figure out what the heck is going on with the wiring in this car and get it back to how it's supposed to be so you can actually use the key to start it and not worry about, something catching on fire. But anyway, I'm also going to take care of a bunch of service stuff, and of course we'll take that thorough drive. But anyway, as always, there's a whole lot of stuff to do, so without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. I'd like to give a quick thanks to O'Reilly Auto Parts, Duplicolor, and Scott Home & Auto for supporting this project. I've got a bunch of links down in the description box below of various products and parts that I'm using. If you'd like to learn more information, please support the brands to support the channel. It really means a lot. Well, this has escalated all the way to a full-blown dash replacement. In putting in that switch panel, not only did they cut these pigtails off the steering column and jerry-rig them all in there, but they cut the entire inner structure of the dash out. So there's no vent structure, there's no metal reinforcement plate like there's supposed to be, and blah, 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 blah. So I can get all that stuff off of the parts car, no problem. Still gonna have to do a bunch of work because we're dealing with 1980s plastic here. It's not exactly the highest quality stuff. Fortunately, the general structure of what's in here is still intact, but I'm going to have to go through and reinforce and epoxy and fix and all this stuff, so when everything goes back together, it doesn't just try to crumble apart when you're tightening all the screws. But, again, typical stuff. So a little bit more labor intensive, but got a good plan. Now I can move forward and get this wiring fixed. Without too much difficulty, I've got all those wires reconnected. I've got the steering column mocked up with all of the essential connectors plugged in. I also just replaced the ignition cylinder because the one that was on the other column was broken and I don't have the keys for this car. So fortunately, I was able to pick up a replacement at O'Reilly. So now that all of that is in, battery's reconnected, let's try to crank it over. Before I start putting anything back together in here, I've got a bunch of parts on order, so when it all goes back together, hopefully it's for the final time, so I will be kicking off a portion of the interior restoration as well. So while I wait on all of that stuff, I'm gonna take a break in here and start tackling the service work. As I start putting the interior back together, I'll be using a combination of plastic, vinyl, and fabric refinishing products from Duplicolor. Before any kind of painting, it's important to prepare the surface you're working with by removing dirt, wax, and grease, then scuff up the surface for maximum adhesion. You obviously want the surface as clean as possible, but creating a mechanical bond improves long-term adhesion. Prep work is the most time-consuming part of painting, especially if you're working with older, dirtier parts. The more time you spend on prep, the better the end results. Duplicolor also offers a full lineup of cleaning products from wax and grease remover and acetone to both water and solvent-borne cleaners. Before you start applying a top coat, I'd recommend using Duplicolor's Plastic Adhesion Promoter, which improves the adhesion of enamel and lacquer top coats to all automotive plastic and vinyl surfaces by creating a chemical bond in addition to the mechanical bond. After you're done with your cleaning, you're going to want to mask off the surrounding areas you don't want painted to guard against overspray. The best conditions for painting are going to be between temperatures of 60 degrees and 95 degrees with humidity less than 60%. Also, don't apply any of these products in direct sunlight because it'll negatively affect the curing process. Before applying, shake the can for at least a minute so the mixing ball inside can properly stir things up. You also want to shake the can for 10 seconds after each minute of use. To spray, hold the can parallel and about 8 to 10 inches from the surface you're painting, and use an even sweeping motion. Apply 2 to 3 light coats and allow for 3 minutes of cure time between each coat of adhesion promoter. You'll then want to apply your top coat within 10 minutes of the last adhesion promoter coat. Duplicolor's vinyl and fabric paint is a flexible, self-priming coating that doesn't require the use of a primer. It's formulated for increased adhesion to restore or restyle vinyl, simulated leather, and fabric, and ideal for automotive dashboards, door panels, center consoles, seats, and carpet. Simply apply 2 to 3 light coats or until the surface is evenly coated. This paint dries to the touch in 30 minutes and can be handled in 1 hour. You can recoat at any time. In addition to a variety of colors to choose from, they also offer vinyl and fabric clear coat. In this process, I'm also going to be switching things up by getting rid of all of the red painted trim in favor of a dark gray metallic finish, which I've used in the past on my S10 and I think it'll be a great fit for this car. For that, I'm using Duplicolor's textured metallic coating, top coated with a light layer of clear coat to match the sheen I achieved on the dashboard. One helpful tip, after each coat of whatever you're applying, invert the can and spray till you see clear gas come out. This cleans the nozzle and guards against clogs. I won't be reassembling the entire interior because I still have a restoration video in the works, but I at least want it together enough to drive around for a bit. Something else that I'm excited to highlight over the course of the interior restoration is the installation of a complete stereo system. A huge thanks to Boss Audio Systems for their continued support of my channel. They went above and beyond with providing a Bluetooth-capable radio, upgraded dash and headrest speakers, a dedicated 4-channel amplifier, a 10-inch powered subwoofer, and all of the necessary wiring to hook everything up. I went ahead and started disassembling the interior so I can work on figuring out where I want to mount the amplifier and subwoofer. I think this setup is going to make a world of difference in this little car. You all will get to see how it all comes together when I begin the rest of the interior restoration. The headrest speakers in particular will be pretty sweet. Pontiac only used them on the early models and they make for a pretty sweet surround sound-like experience when they're working properly. For more information about the specific products from Boss that I'll be using, check out the links I have in the description box below. The time has finally come. I've got this thing put back together enough, so let's take it for a test drive. Just trying to get a good feel for it at the moment. Temperature gauge, I had replaced the sending unit in the engine bay, and it's still a little unpredictable, but I verified with the infrared meter that the car is cooling, it's not overheating, so I gotta check to see if there might be a ground or resistance issue somewhere. The tachometer is still off. I've swapped this little tach filter that's in the engine bay, and I've changed out the instrument cluster, so I'm not sure what's going on with that still, but it runs really good. Still needs suspension and brake work, but has smoothed out a little bit since the first time I drove it, so I think the tires might have a little bit of flat spots in them. Torque converter's locking up. Obviously the alignment is very bad. I also think I put the steering wheel on a little crooked, but I'll fix that a little bit later. Gonna end up putting all new brakes on it. They're a little soft, but good enough for the moment. This car sounds so good. They basically put a custom, or somebody has put a custom exhaust on this at some point, and I think it's just, it looks, what looks like one glass pack underneath the car. No power steering. These didn't come with power steering, but feels pretty good, nice and tight. Slow up a little bit and give it the juice. We'll get there at some point. I will say this is a lot of fun to drive. No, it doesn't have the power, it's not quick, but it handles like it's on rails. I thought I was going to end up just rebuilding the whole suspension, but aside from some, you know, things that absolutely need to be done, like some bushings and stuff that I noticed that were bad, feels pretty tight. Corner's pretty flat. Sharp. I like it a lot. I can understand why people swap in, like, you know, late model V6s, you know, the supercharged 3800s. I know people have V8 swapped these, but that just sounds wild and unnecessary. I definitely would not mind driving a 3800 supercharged one. I think that would be a whole lot of fun, especially if you had a 5-speed or something. Good oil pressure. Speedometer seems to be working okay. Do the wipers work? Kinda, sorta. previously, I think it's turning out pretty good. Once I get my suspension and brake work done, you know, put some miles on it, make sure it's good, you know, engine and transmission, all that fun stuff, I think we'll be able to move on with the rest of the restoration. Well everyone, that's going to wrap it up for this video. I hope you all enjoyed. Please don't forget to leave a like down below because it really helps the videos a lot. And if you haven't subscribed already, consider doing so and make sure you turn your notifications on. Once again, be sure to support the brands that support the channel. It really means a lot. I'll see you guys on the next one. Take care.